I'm proud to be able to present our Assembly Concurrent Resolution 99. This is with respect to the work that we've done on the issue of conversion therapy. For context, as you may recall, in 2012, the state of California had prohibited conversion therapy, the practice of conversion therapy for minors 18 and under. Since 2012, 15 plus other states have also joined in this effort and recognizing this damaging practice. Last year, I carried a bill, Assembly Bill 2943, that would have qualified conversion therapy as a fraudulent practice. With your indulgence and support and recognizing this harmful practice, the bill was successful out of the state assembly as well as the state senate. At the same time, there was an outpouring of individuals who had some concerns with respect to how this might impede on their respective religious freedoms. I have a fundamental disagreement with that. Having said that, I think that there was a recognition of the harmful practice that conversion therapy had on a number of Californians. And at the same time, I took it upon myself to visit many districts throughout the state to listen to the concerns of a number of individuals. As a result of that, a number of leaders within the evangelical community had articulated their support of the notion that individuals should be loved and celebrated as who they are. And last year, we held that a piece of legislation in order to form a wider coalition of individuals to help shine light on these efforts. And as a result, what you have here today is a resolution that talks about the notion of the importance of loving individuals. And I'm proud to see that a number of evangelical leaders have also joined in support of this. With me today is representatives from Equality California, and most importantly, the former president of the National Association of Evangelicals, Kevin Mannoia, who has also penned an op-ed in the Orange County Register with respect to these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. It's a real honor to be able to be here and to speak to all of you. Time is valuable, I know. Frankly, one of the underlying interests that I have is to change the tone of this entire conversation throughout the communities, the state, and frankly, the nation. That may be a bit far-reaching, and I may be a bit naive in presuming that that could happen, but I think in the state of California, if we change the tone here, it may affect others across the country. I realize... I'm Kevin Mannoia. I'm sorry. Thank you for the reminder. I'm really grateful to Assemblymember Lowe and those working with him for their willingness to dialogue. I come from a tradition that is a conservative tradition in the Christian church, and I appreciate his willingness to remain in dialogue. I realize that he and many other people have fundamental differences with many Christian churches, especially what we believe about God, humanity, and specifically human sexuality. Yet, in spite of those differences, he has been willing to engage and remain engaged, and I, along with many pastors, are grateful for that. The resolution you have is because of that willingness to remain engaged in healthy dialogue. And I'm hopeful that this will mark a pattern of open, honest, relational dialogue among people with fundamental differences. You have a letter that I've read, that I've written, so I don't need to rehearse that. Together, we're committed to compassionate treatment of all people, created in the image of God. Honest, gracious treatment of one another, reflecting Christ well. I know that we live in an increasingly pluralistic culture. I'm one person who has walked all my life with Jesus Christ as my friend and guide, and I've lived under the authority of God's Word, including the Bible, and yet I recognize that I and those like me are not alone in this state or this nation. There are people and even fellow ministers who do not support my being here with Evan. And I also realize that there are people who do not support Evan in his being here with me and with this particular resolution. I recognize that there are other measures that you and others will deal with which many of us will struggle. And yet, I would like to think that this process, this small moment, this dialogue can be one small way to signal that we may honestly engage in healthy dialogue of integrity from different starting points. So I seek ways to fulfill my mission, and I am grateful for the process, as this has been one way I am able, however imperfectly, to do that. There are some around who are not supportive, and yet I pray that our dialogue will, in fact, bring good to the people, and in my prayer, glory to God. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to offer you the letter that you have, and trust that this will be a good indication to the state, a moral call to the state regarding the treatment of all people with kindness and grace. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Wanning. I co-lead an organization called Equipped to Love and Changed. It was about this time last year that we were here testifying at the Capitol. Hello again. I wish to thank Assemblyman Lowe and the LGBT caucus for pursuing common ground through this resolution. As I testified before, I came out as a lesbian in my early 20s after questioning my sexuality for several years. When I was nearly 40, I began experiencing a shift in my sexuality and married a man. Some years after coming out as a lesbian, I attended a Presbyterian seminary openly lesbian and became part of the LGBT affirming church movement. When I came out, I was an ordained elder in my church, and I recall the painful humiliation I experienced when I was asked to resign that position because of my orientation. So, like many in this room, I've had experiences of sideways glances and humiliating comments, even though right now, most of you cannot imagine that in my life. Because of my experiences and those of dear friends, I regard this resolution with great concern. Much resonates. Because of my past, I seek to guide Christians into understanding, honor, and compassion for LGBT people. Nevertheless, I take exception to the belief that religion is central to the high rates of suicide among LGBT youth. For me and many others, faith rescued us from suicide. The experience of discovering you're different than most other people is traumatic and troubling, whether you have faith or not. Hopelessness causes suicide. And as I stated last year, to remind the Assembly that the lesbian experience is multifaceted. This resolution oversimplifies the female experience. Not all women who identify as lesbian will claim they were born that way, and most studies about orientation have focused on men. Many women will experience sexual fluidity either toward or away lesbianism during their lives, as the APA concedes. Some women acknowledge the role of sexual abuse by men in their orientation. In that case, counseling offers resolution and often restoration, and how essential that is for girls in our Me Too culture.
Thank you, committee members. Appreciate your time. It's good to see you again. Assemblyman Lowe. I'm a pastor in Reading, and I've been married to my wife for 13 years. We have 4 children together, but that is not how I started out life. I never experienced any opposite sex attraction until I was around 33 years old in there. I remember one of my biggest memories as a child. I was probably 9 or 10 years old. I was following some other boys out into a field. One of the boys opened up a boot box, pulled out gay pornography, showed it to us. And no one had ever talked to me about homosexuality at that point. This is 1981 or so. No one had talked to me about pornography, but my conscience was deeply violated in what I saw. Now, other people might have a different experience than what I did, but for me, what I witnessed was not acceptable. My conscience said, this is not okay, and you shouldn't be looking at this. And what concerns me about this resolution is it systematically goes through and discredits any viewpoint other than affirming of moving in a homosexual direction. So for anyone that's experienced any moment, this is the way I read it, any moment of same-sex attraction or maybe transgender feelings or like that, anything like that, you must affirm it and go that direction. Well, my little conscience as a 9 or 10-year-old boy did not allow me to go that direction. And nor did my conscience ever allow me to go that direction. And that's our consciences. We're all adults here. We don't determine our consciences. That's the thing that fires off at will. I don't determine what I actually believe deep inside. I can obey my conscience or not. And so what's scary for me is that 200 plus years into America's development of its freedoms, that we would be now moving to support one initiative or one viewpoint so strongly that we would actually erode a people group's rights, convictions. And there are many people that find respite in an LGBT community. There are also many people that have tried that, and it did not bring what they were looking for. We encounter those people all the time. This book that we made for you guys and girls includes 50 of those stories of friends like ours. We know hundreds of people that found fulfillment in moving away from that. I had a girl that came up to me at the end of my ministering in a church service a few months ago, and she said, she came up, it was hard to tell whether she was male or female, and she cried, and she said, for anyone to refer to me as a he or a she feels like I'm being stabbed with knives. And she cried, and I prayed for her, using no gender pronouns. But what she was asking from me was not that I use the right pronouns. What she was saying is, can you help me? Because she wasn't feeling okay with herself, no matter how someone referred to her. She needed help. She needed the church. She needed professional help. And so, Assemblyman Lowe, I'm asking you, you may have the votes to pass this, but I don't believe that you have the right to presuppose people's consciences or to tell them what they need to believe. I totally support your right and everyone you represent to experience whatever in life that you'd like to. I have no intention to take that away. I just am asking that my rights of my people group would also be respected. So I ask for a no vote on this resolution. Thank you.
You know, I think for me, like, I want to continue this dialogue. I think it's important, as Mr. Mannoia brought up, that the dialogue does continue. I think some of the concerns that I have with the resolution as it is right now is it seems to me to lump all practices into a damaging conversion therapy, bin, if you will. And I don't think that all practices are, and I think that there are legitimate practices of faith, and I think you see that too, that there are legitimate practices of faith that are done in a loving and compassionate way, and we do need to respect religious freedom, and I don't see a firm statement of that in this resolution, that, hey, people are, free to practice their faith as they believe. And that goes to people from all different walks of life. I think the other concern that I have is just anytime that we as a government are sort of telling faith leaders or telling a church, how they should operate or how they should go about practicing their faith, we in the Judiciary Committee obviously have to be pretty concerned about protecting the First Amendment, that that the free exercise of religion should not be abridged.
If Pastor, your comments are extremely important, because we're not saying this is a law that's going to force anybody to do anything. This is a resolution for those in the faith-based community, because yes, they aren't the cause of the suicide, but many people do seek the attention and the affirmation from the very churches where they were raised. It is an important step. I think that there was a comment about a moral call to the people to dialogue and treat each person with respect and dignity. That's exactly what this resolution is all about, is affirming that we as Californians want everyone, including our faith-based community and including very, very specifically in this resolution, we want all Californians to treat each other with respect and dignity.
So I've got 2 children. They are 10 and 12 years old. Whatever their path, whatever their affiliation, however they go through, their path to adulthood, I don't want anyone, a faith leader, a community leader, I don't want anyone judging that or relating to that as a problem that needs to be changed or something that needs to be converted. So as a mother, I'm very, very happy to support this resolution. And as a legislator, I'm very happy to support this resolution.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, Mr. Lowe, you may close.
Thank you very much for the comments as well. First of all, I want to thank Kevin Mannoia for his engagement on this issue. What you have before us here is not the product that you have before you is not does not come easily. There were many conversations, very difficult conversations to which. Frankly, there were times to which I thought this couldn't be possible, that we would respectively walk away because the divide was too great. But as a result of the work and the conversations and of the shared values, we realized that we have much more in common than we have that of differences. And again, if I can just read the op-ed that Kevin read, and again, Kevin's position is former president of the National Association of Evangelicals, and he's a former bishop of the Free Methodist Church. And he stated that reparative therapy is without evidence to its efficacy and is inconsistent with Christian living. We support this opposition to this practice because that harms people. This is contrary to the nature of the Christian message, which, while calling for the change of all people to be oriented toward Christ, even at great sacrifice, neither favors nor supports any practice that causes harm. Again, I think to the point that our colleagues made, the notion of conversion therapy is antithetical to my very existence, my very being sitting here. That we should be loved and celebrated, that there's something inherently wrong, that something should be changed. There's nothing wrong with individuals like myself, members of the LGBT community. And again, what you have here is an effort, a transformative effort, I believe, to saying that members of the religious community and members of religious faith can hold hands with members of the LGBT community, that we can get away from what we see at the national level and that of divide, but of commonality. And so this is the essence of love, dignity, inclusion, and respect for all people. And I would ask your vote in joining us with that love and respect. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a motion.